Hi, the SI meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Thursday, June 28th. Well, it's been extremely hot out in the middle part of the country for the last few days, from the Rocky Mountain states into the Central Plains. States like Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, Texas have been broiling over the last several days with, of course, widespread wildfire danger throughout the state of Colorado. That bubble of hot air is expanding to the east right now and will reach our region here in the Mid-Atlantic region by tomorrow. Actually, today temperatures can approach 90 degrees, but the real change will be noticeable tomorrow morning when the humidity rises. And at the onset of that change to the higher humidity air mass, there can be some thunderstorms late tonight and early tomorrow morning in the Mid-Atlantic region. Let's take a look at the latest surface map. And here you have high pressure sitting right over the center part of the country, now expanding to the east. And with it is that expansion of the hot bubble of air that has been, again, sitting right over the middle of the country over the last few days. And it will be just a scorching weekend here in the Mid-Atlantic region, especially from, let's say, the Mason-Dixon line on down south and east down into the southeastern part of the U.S. There can very well be some records broken all the way from D.C. down to Florida, down into the Central Plains. This area right here in the southeastern quadrant of the country will absolutely fry this weekend. And here in the northeastern part of the U.S., there will be a tendency for some backdoor cold front type situations to set up for places like Boston and perhaps even New York City that could break the back of any real extreme heat. However, from Philadelphia on down to D.C., certainly it looks like well up in the 90s, and D.C. region close to 100 degrees on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Well, here's an interesting map from coolweather.com that shows the change in temperatures over the last 24 hours and all the places that came within a few degrees of record highs as well as within a few degrees of record lows. A couple things to notice. All the hot air here represented here by these oranges and pink circles and yellow circles out over the middle of the country. This is not necessarily record highs, but all those stations that came very close, if not actually setting a record high in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, in an interesting scenario down here in the southeastern U.S., in the wake of Tropical Storm Debby, which moved off after a weekend into tropical depression status, it actually left some cooler air behind and even some near record lows in the places where they had some tremendous rainfall over the last few days. So here in the last 24 hours, you had some near record lows or actual record lows in the southeastern part of the country, and near record or record highs out in the center part of the country. And of course, this air mass is now expanding into the east and will cause a scorching weekend here in the Mid-Atlantic region. Here's the latest infrared satellite loop. A couple main players are evolving here and setting the stage for this atmospheric blowtorch to move into the eastern part of the country. First of all, storm that's been rotating around upper New England for the last few days continues to slowly weaken and slowly slide to the north and east. It had dumped a lot of rain on Maine, for example, over the last few days. As that pulls out, it'll allow for this high pressure area over the middle part of the country to expand into the east, and that is where the hot air is, and the bubble of hot air will expand to the east as well. Meanwhile, here are the remains of what was Tropical Storm Debby continuing to pull away from the coast. So lots of clear skies now setting up here from the Central Plains right to the East Coast, and this is setting the stage for a heat wave from this afternoon right through Monday. In some places like around D.C. can approach 100 degrees on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Let's take a quick look at a couple of GFS forecast maps. This one is for this evening from last night's Zero-Z GFS model run. First of all, this red line here, this isotherm here, kind of represents the onset of that brutal hot and humid air mass that's been sitting out over the middle of the part of the country. And by tonight, it's right on the doorstep of the East Coast. And notice no precipitation here. It looks like today will be a rather dry day. It'll get rather hot with temperatures approaching 90 degrees in many parts of the Mid-Atlantic region. Still only moderate humidity values, not too oppressive in terms of humidity. But by tomorrow morning, let's take a look at the GFS model. And this is tomorrow morning, Friday morning. And notice that by tomorrow morning, the GFS is putting out a little precip right here along the Mid-Atlantic coastal region. And really what that is associated with is the advancement of the humid air. Again, today will be relatively moderate humidity values in the Mid-Atlantic region, but the real jump in humidity will be noticed tomorrow morning, and with that onset of the humid air mass will come the threat of thunderstorms late tonight and tomorrow morning. Kind of unusual timing, but tomorrow morning certainly poses a threat for some thunderstorms from D.C. up to New York City here in the Mid-Atlantic region as that real brutal, humid, and hot air mass advances into the eastern part of the country. So we have a heat wave setting up here for the Mid-Atlantic region from this afternoon right through Monday. Temperatures can approach 100 degrees in the D.C. region on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, well up in the 90s in Philadelphia, and in New York City anywhere from 90 to 95 over the upcoming weekend. That's it for now for the SIWeather.com. I'm the SI meteorologist, Paul Dorian.